Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are on the sidelines with the Sideline guys. And today, this is not TSG boxing, not TSG MMA. This is TSG combat. We're covering all things combat sports. Last weekend was literally insane. So many different things we could touch on. I threw a couple things on the rundown too that I didn't even tell you about just because I know you watched it. You know what I'm saying? So, looking forward to covering all things combat sports with my guy Arwin. So please, off rip, tell everyone where they can find you. Give them your socials.
You can follow me at 808 MMA Insight on Twitter, and that's mostly it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So off the bat, right? Let's start with the biggest fight in combat sports this last weekend. Ryan Garcia versus I'm reading the bill wrong here. Javante Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. Um, Obviously that a fight that I'm interested to hear how you were feeling about it coming in. But really, Tank showed insane power, but also just really good patience and awareness in the ring.
Mhm.
How did you feel about that performance from Tank?
It was great, man. Like I remember just watching with my friends and then like seeing like the contrast. Like you can see like the levels starting to separate. Like because Tank has that style where just like Mayweather, he analyzes. Like he's usually a slow starter. Will take a round off or two. But then as soon as Ryan starts pouring it on in the second, and he like wakes up, he's like, "Okay, if you want to play, let's play." And then he hits him with that counter, and I was like, "Oh man, dude, it's gonna be." I already knew instantly this is gonna be a long night for him. And then as it plays out, like he's investing more and more into the body, and I think he was trying to set up a headshot. But man, bro, that finish though, you gotta tell me about that.
Yes,
That was
sir.
crazy.
Literally, I just got to start by saying this. Going in, friends don't let friends bet Ryan Garcia. That's all I got to say. I mean, earlier I knew coming into this fight, respectfully, right? I,
Right.
I thought I thought it was pretty clear that Javante was levels above Ryan Garcia, and when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to striking, period. When it came to the power and the intangibles, that's what sold the fight, right? But
Mm-hmm.
whenever I heard people seriously talk about betting Ryan Garcia, I'm like, please, bro, reevaluate that. Like, even just
Right.
go the under. Like, you're better off going under 9.5 than trying to bet on Ryan Garcia, in my opinion. And that ended up playing out that way. That body shot, obviously, a lot of people have very strange opinions about body shots whenever it comes to big time fights in combat sports. I think it's very obvious why he had that reaction, and anyone questioning whether he
Mm-hmm.
quit or anything like that have never been touched up to the body like that, right? One time, listen, as two dudes in the resident thick boy fight club, right? We know just because we have a little extra padding here, right? It doesn't matter.
Uh-huh.
If you get hit in the right spot, it will
Exactly.
put you down and really change the way
Exactly.
you feel, not just about um that moment, but your fragility in general. So please
Mm-hmm.
elaborate a little bit more about that. Like that clearly was not a fake thing or him throwing the fight or giving up. Like a lot of influencers, I see Aiden Ross talking that shit. Oh, I got scammed. He just took a knee. Like, bro, you must not get it.
Yeah, no, it's weird, man. Like, but that's always been the case, right? Like MMA fans, boxing fans, like they're very fickle. Like you can tell who has like trained some type of discipline and who hasn't. Like I know you do some kickboxing, right? Like you do all that kind of stuff. Like me too. Like I train in all kind of martial arts and stuff like that, or at least like have that hobby of doing it. Like you experience these things in a fight, like in a sparring match, and you say like, oh wow, this is a lot different from like watching on the screen because you're there. So like, and if you watch how it works, like, yeah, again, like with the levels and everything, like Ryan abandoned the jab a little bit. He should have just kept sticking with the jab, kept his distance like he talks about. But then when his body gets squared up, it's like right there. The shot's right there. And especially with like that smaller frame with Tank, like all the power comes from the hips, like goes right into that. And then of course he's not gonna get up. People are like, I can understand because it's kind of weird because he got up like right after the 10 count. But at the same time, it's like your body shuts down, man. Like your body, like it like when you get hit in the liver, like your body goes into shock. And then you just like you try to get up as much as you can. I think the only other person who could do that was like get up from a liver shot was like Arturo Gotti. But like it's different. That you can tell like as the fight progresses on, people are like, oh, okay, he's just kind of trying to land power shots, but Tank is like okay, keep going. Like dude, the post fight when he says, "Yeah, I kept looking at him. I told him get up, like get up." I was like, "Don't get up." Like I think I'm glad he didn't get up because he would have just got punished like throughout the whole fight. It's not good. Like
Yeah,
that's the right move to make.
for
Just
sure.
stay down.
For sure. Even if you would have got up right at the 9 count and then they counted off
Right.
again, what's really gonna happen? Like, me personally, it's more than just your body being shut down. Like, you
Mhm.
feel like you don't have access to life anymore. Like you're here, you're trying
Right.
to breathe. You don't feel like you're connected to the truth no
Mhm.
more. Like it's a different experience. So once again, it's hard to put yourself there if you've never been there. I get that, but just
Mhm.
being ignorant about it and trying to bash him as a man for it.
Yeah, no.
He
Good
was
for
all
him.
class too afterwards and just
Right.
very very respectful. I thought it was brilliant, like the way that they built the
Mhm.
fight and everything. I thought he really knows what he's doing when it comes to fight promotion, and not a lot of guys do, right? So
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to take away from him as a fighter either, right? Just saying, oh, well, he talks well, he gets it, he's respectful, so he got my respect. Like, no, he did
Mhm.
what he thought he had to do to win, and that was sort of selling out,
Mhm.
especially early,
Yeah.
trying to ride those waves, right? Trying to create big momentum for himself. And there was some moments, right, where uh he did have some success, but it definitely did feel like Javante was
Mhm.
just waiting for that right moment, like you said, for him to square up.
Mhm.
And both times was able to capitalize in combination, right? This isn't like
Mhm.
um, he just threw one shot and then it dropped him, and that's why everyone's so
Mhm.
surprised by it. Like he caught him while Ryan was throwing. Both times he dropped him.
Right.
So that once again, I know it's not easy to always see those things, right? But
Mhm.
much respect to Ryan Garcia, in my opinion. I thought
Yeah.
even though he was outclassed, he was never outmatched, right? He was never in a position
Mhm.
where he it didn't feel like he was good. He was putting himself in a spot to win.
Exactly. Yeah, no, like, and that's what a lot of fans don't get. Like, these guys, this is their job, Like, obviously, they're probably not the most smart people in the room because they hit each other in the head for a living, but they're like tough, man. Like, that, none of that's easy. They do it every single day. And a young kid like Ryan, like, the fact that he went in against, a top boxer, did all that, no hydration bullshit, whatever, that's still like, that, he made the fight happen. You got to give respect to people like that, like Tank too, like man's about to go to prison or something, so it's
Yeah,
like
literally.
it's
2 weeks from
crazy.
now, he's gonna be
It's,
yeah, he's gonna have his trial hearing, literally.
exactly, it's crazy. It's
And not for
crazy,
nothing, that's another underrated thing to talk about. Not I haven't
Yeah,
really been hearing anyone talk about it, right? But let's be real,
yeah,
like it kind of sucks, right? Because he's so brilliant technically, right? And this is what you love to see
hmm
as a combat sports fan.
hmm
But as far as all the other stuff and how um combat sports gets a bad rap in general, right? So
right.
whenever there is people who do have trouble with the law, I feel like it's put under a double microscope, right? And I
hmm
don't know what it is, whether it's John Jones or Javante Davis or Floyd Mayweather. There's so many different people you can name, but I just feel like in some ways they are Teflon, right? You still get to do these things despite you having a trial date where literally, I don't know if you know all the details of that, but they were in a position where this went to a judge and the actual victim recanted and was saying, I'm not trying to continue to go forward through it. And the judge decided, no, like I'm going to force this to go to a jury trial just because of the severity of what happened. So
Right.
that's a rare circumstance in itself.
That's crazy.
So the fact that all of that is going on and right, all of that is on the back burner and it was just billed as this big fight.
hmm
Don't get me wrong, I enjoy what he's able to do, right, as a technician.
hmm
But I just feel like I don't understand how a lot of this stuff gets swept under the rug. I feel like even if that was in MMA, that would have
hmm
been a much bigger part of the
Right.
storyline than it was throughout this boxing saga.
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, yeah, I'm not too familiar with the boxing scene like that too, but I think it's just a matter of just like trying to like make it about the fight, But for me, I'm trying my best to separate, the art from the artist, right? So it's like because sometimes, you just get that, like John Jones, like all the crap that he's done, all the shit that, he's put fans through and people through, and like it sucks because then he's like one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, if not the greatest, right? But then sometimes it just, I don't know, man. It's just maybe the pain goes to your head. But,
Mhm.
you know, I'm so thankful that we get to like experience those type of like, martial artists now, those fighters now,
For sure.
So hopefully
I'm
they
I'm
get
not
to that
saying
point.
I would have rather him not fight, right? But you got to be
Yeah, yeah,
transparent
yeah,
about these things, right? Like
yeah.
I
You
feel
got
like the fact that that wasn't at all mentioned in my on the
yeah.
broadcast, at least from what I heard, is just a
Mhm.
rare circumstance. But anyway, to get beyond that, once again,
Right, right, right.
fan of what he's able to do in the ring for the last couple years now, right? I think
Mhm.
he's probably the most underrated boxer before this fight, right? Before this fight, I
Mhm.
would argue who's one of the most underrated boxers when it comes from like the pound for pound scale, right? And looking at
Right.
who are the best boxers currently. I just feel like his style is so unique, even especially at that weight class, right? He kind of has he's the Yoel Romero of boxing, right? You're kind of sort of
Mhm.
waiting and not doing much until you find that one moment to capitalize. And when you do, good luck trying to survive that shit. So what do you think about
Right.
Tank's style and what's the style to beat him?
Like, I feel like during those early moments of the fight, like I think Ryan had the right idea, like going into that second, just like the thing is, like when he was like talking, I was like, yeah, I got bored in there. Like I kind of just want to like start like doing stuff and like I wanted to finish the fight or whatever. Like, but he was doing the right thing because what Tank does, like I've noticed the last fights that I've watched him in, like he likes to analyze, he likes to definitely like take his time and see like, oh, let me see how this plays out, right? And then like, okay, I collected my data, I've analyzed, like now I'm ready to like show what's up, show the level to this. But then when he got rocked a couple times too, I think with Ryan was like during that flurry when he was like pouring it on a little bit. The thing is was just like, the reset, he didn't reset in time and he got countered. So then that's what I think some people thought it was a swing round. Like I don't know how boxing judging works. So for me, I thought like, oh, he dropped him. So that was it. He like Tank got the round, right? So but then definitely someone who's able to like utilize their jab very well. Someone who move around the ring and like definitely like counter the counter, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like it's really hard, man. Um, I feel like a lot of guys that like with Haney, people or like Loma. Loma's a good matchup with him just because of the movement, right? But then a lot of people I think Stevenson's a good matchup too. Stevenson has a lot like he's really smart, he's really fast. So someone like that.
All great shouts. I agree. And I think the key for even those guys, right? I don't know that going out there and trying to blow Tank out the water is the right thing to do. Like I think you gotta find a way to make him work, right?
Mm-hmm.
To put yourself out there so that he is starting to lunge, starting to try to land his own shots, and then work
Mm-hmm.
from the outside. Then because you can stick your jab as much as you want, but with the way he fights, he's not there to be jabbed either. Like even if you're bigger
Mm-hmm.
than him, he's sort of moving back and waiting for you to come to him. So I
Right,
think whenever someone does figure him out, I think the first couple rounds are going to be like glacially slow. Like everyone is just going to be waiting for something to happen. And it's
right,
sort of
right.
playing that mind game of trying to draw him out and then get him as he's drawn out, basically doing what he's done to other fighters. But I
Mm-hmm.
agree. I think the jab is the key, right? And it was so weird
Mm-hmm.
that I felt like by the fifth round, Ryan Garcia's left hand was just out of the equation, and the
Mm-hmm.
right. Don't get me wrong, the right was landing well, like you mentioned. And I love everything he was doing with like clinching up and landing shots in between and just making him uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought he could have benefited a little bit more from being a little bit more reserved, like capitalize on
Right.
those moments when you have them, but you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
try to take them out of there every second you get a chance because that hammer's coming.
Exactly. Especially with that length too. Like it's weird because like my style is like that too. It's like where I like to fight on the inside, even though I have like a 71 inch reach. So it's like, why even do that? So it's like, um, yeah, it's just crazy. It's just, but I think that's the thing about being young too in the sport is like in any sport is just like you get a little apprehensive and then or you get a little anxious and you kind of just want to like get it going. And then, and he was finding success. And then, but with guys like that, especially from that like Mayweather camp, it's just like they're just smart. The IQ's like levels above other people. They even though it doesn't look like it. But then because of the power and you like again, like you said, intangibles. But then like that's how they utilize it to their advantage.
Mhm. For sure, for sure. Man, this I just love that this fight happened, right? Like we can we take a
Mm-hmm.
second to enjoy that the
Mm-hmm.
fact that this even took place at all, especially with all the circumstances between the two different fighters. I think moving forward with Ryan Garcia though, I think he's gonna benefit from probably taking a big step down after this, right? Staying at 140. Um, I just love this weight like range between 135 and 147. There's so many good fighters that it feels like all these fights are getting lined up right now. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of different names, but please just keep him away from anyone even like Josh Taylor's level, in my opinion, is way too high for him at this moment. Just let him
Mhm.
continue to build. He's very young and establish his style with Joe Goosen. Hopefully he continues that relationship. I liked seeing the way he interacted with him in the corner. I think he does command a certain level of attention that a young fighter like that needs. So I think both guys are going to continue to have a good career from here. Obviously, Tank's sort of his ceiling, in my opinion, is much higher than most champions. Even I
Mhm.
feel like he could be on that pound for pound level as he continues to progress. But obviously, everything else in his life needs to be on the right trajectory for that to happen too. So I think Ryan Garcia is a championship level fighter, though. Do you agree? Do you think he will end up
Mhm.
getting a belt at some point?
Oh yeah. Like honestly, it's just a matter of just like going through those wars and like understanding uh your body and like your style and like how you match up with people and changing it. Like it's just there's so much different things that goes into like fighting in general that I think he's slowly realizing like he needed a fight like this, you know, that really big match to like really like set the tone for the rest of his career, you know. It's like when he realized like, oh wow, is this the gap? Like this the gap is this big, you know, like so how like now it's either gonna be do I have enough, you know, but now it's either that or he's gonna be like, yeah, I know what to do now. You know, it depends on how he takes this loss and it's not a bad loss, dude. Like it's like a really like if you're gonna lose to someone, it's gonna be someone who's like at the top of the division. And so like what are you gonna do to improve from there, right? So but and he's really self-aware too. He's like, yeah, I should have, you know, played it a little you know, slower a little bit, you know, use the jab, moved around more, you know, just but you know, but he just likes to have fun fights, which is cool. But then sometimes that's not economical in the long run, right? Because sometimes you can have those exciting fights but then later, you know, you have that wear and tear. And then you gotta think about your brain. That's why, like, I'm glad he didn't get up from like the body shot. It's like no, you don't have to. Like, it's okay. Like, you're making your money, and then you can move on to the next one, and then you'll run it back eventually. That's how it's supposed to be, you know.
For sure. Yeah, and even then, that's still a considerable amount of damage that he did take. Like I'm pretty sure he's pissing blood and dealing with all the effects of that too. So,
Right.
shot, heal up good, Ryan Garcia. Looking forward to seeing what he has to offer the sport too.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on and get into our MMA stuff, I just thought it was funny because you mentioned like knowing your style, knowing what it's like. To try to think of how would you compare your style if there was a fighter you could say your style most emanates and I'll start with this. um I consider myself to be a 3XL version of Tanner Boser, right? So I'm fast for my size, right?
Nice.
At the heavyweight division. So everyone's like, you expect to be getting hit so hard, right? But I got the speed behind it too, so it's a little shocking in that way. So that's the closest I would say. Obviously, the Wish.com version. But what would you say?
Nah, bro.
What would you say? How would you say your style compares to other fighters?
That's so funny. Like honestly, what I've been trying to emulate a lot, but since I've been boxing a little bit more lately, I've been trying to do like more like Charles Oliveira type. Like I love the ground more than I love stand up, but the stand up's so fun. But I love pressure fighting. Like I loved, but then you know me growing up in Hawaii, you know you get hit once, you become one mukbanga, yeah. So that's what we used to call them, yeah. But like I changed my whole style like after I get hit. Like I'll start throwing hooks like Chandler, but then like if I hit but I still have the pressure, but then I'm constantly like trying to smother you. Like so I'll have that and then I like to, you know, snatch the body a lot. So like Nick Diaz, you know, just hitting like the body like as much as I can and then like wearing you out and then just constantly pressuring. So yeah, like a little bit of mixture of those, just like, you know, I'm trying to get more in control of my emotions when it comes to shit like that. But yeah, it's like that. Again, like, you know, great value of all those pressure fighters.
I
It's
love
so
it. No, I
fun,
love it.
man.
It
It's
makes sense
fun,
that
bro.
your Hawaiian blood. You gotta bring the pressure. I love it. A little Max Holloway in there, I would imagine too. Um, But let's talk about that a little bit too, because I think that's an underrated aspect of combat sports in general, the
Mm,
emotional side of it, and
oh yeah.
after you get hit, what it does to you, right? I'm someone that likes to counter. I think I take up a lot of real estate, right? So when I am pressuring,
Mm,
I like forcing people into situations where I can find a counter, right? So forcing them
right.
into a spot where they have to hit in order to get out, and then I
Mm,
try to capitalize there. So the emotional side of it though, and sort of being aware of that, right? I can be focused on countering, but as soon as I get jabbed up a couple of times, now I'm starting to see a little different, right? Your eyes are watering up a little, and it gets frustrating, right? You get kind of pulled into a big wave of anger, right? So could you talk
mm.
about that and what it's like for you sort of managing your emotions when you're sparring or fighting?
Yeah, like I feel like I'm a lot better now just because it's like my old ass age. But in terms of that is not bad. But then in terms of that, like growing up in Hawaii, growing up with like other local people, like I'm not Hawaiian myself, but like growing up, like I was like the young Filipino, skinny, scrawny Filipino kid trying to like grow up with like all these other like, you know, gritted, just like hard-worn kids, latchkey kids. And then we used to just spar a lot, like in the younger days. But for me, it's like, I was just angry. I had like a lot of like built up stuff inside of me, growing up and like my family. And then when, you get into that fight, like, you're having fun and then like you get hit once and you're like, well, I got to get you back. I can't just take that shit. So like, but now like I'm at that older age where I'm more mature and then it's like, but now my thought when it comes to sparring or like just like even like if we're going a little bit harder, it's like it is that same mindset where like I have to get you back, but in terms of being a good partner, it's like I want to be able to do it where it's like if I'm gonna match your energy, like I'm if you want to go light, I'll go light, we can tap tap, but if you're gonna hit me, then I'm gonna try to hit you back, but then you really have to like just focus in and like remember technique and remember to like just like the basic things like breathing, putting your hands up, like just making sure like you're not just following the person, you have to be able to cut off the ring,
Mhm.
especially with the style that I like to do. And I want to do more stuff like what you do, like countering, like because that's like it's better in the long term because then you have people coming into you and like you can land that shot when there's the opening, I think that's the smarter style of fight. But for me, like I like being able to give back when someone
For
gives it to
sure.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's
You got to ride that storm when it's coming. I feel you. For me, it's hard
yeah.
to balance because like I said, I like to counter. I like to put myself in those positions. But a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time, when it's just the competitive aspect of it, if you feel someone,
Right.
like you said, you feel how hard they're willing to go. And I think early on, that was
Mm-hmm.
something I struggled with too. Early on, I was really scared's not the word, but I didn't want to go in a position where I would be going hard with someone. Like in my
Right.
mind, I was like, I don't want to take it there. Um, but then there is times where you're trying to learn, you're trying to do things that you're not good at, you're not good at, and it gets frustrating, right? And you get annoyed a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. So yeah, I think it is about reading the room kind of and knowing who you're
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
dealing with. For me, I never try to go hard to the head, especially because the majority of the time I'm bigger than the people I'm sparring with, right? So you don't
Right,
want to
right. Me
you don't want
too.
to
Yeah.
you don't want to hurt people and make them not want
Mm-hmm.
to spar with you anymore either. So yeah, but as far as the emotional part of it, I think you see it all the time, no matter what combat sport, where even the skilled professionals, right, the people that are doing this for a living, it all is a game of emotion. And whether you're countering
Mm-hmm.
or being a pressure fighter, you feed off of those moments and uh, having a bad reaction to a feint, or like for example, a great example of this is what Jan Kutalaba was trying to do um, against the guy that looks exactly like Mose from The Office. What is his
Uncle
name?
Live.
Yes, Ankalaev. Um,
Votes from the office. That's so accurate.
literally his twin,
Oh,
just jacked.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what
yeah,
he
yeah.
did in that moment, right, where trying to goat him in by acting like you're hurt or acting like he
Like trying to
landed
cost
better.
him.
Exactly. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that's an underrated part of combat sports that I really love, and conquering
Mm-hmm.
that is much harder than you would imagine. That's all I gotta say.
Right. No, it's true, man. Because sometimes, like, because if I'm just flowing, like my technique is there. Like, I'll be watching like sessions where I'm like just flowing with the person going really light, and my technique's way better. Like, I'm like, it's like unrecognizable. But then when I'm going hard with somebody, like I just look so much different. You know, I'm like trying to like whale this guy in the body and stuff, and I'm like, what is this? What is going on? Like, there's no setup. You know, I'm taking like wide swings. It's so like, you know, it's awkward. So like, I think Max describes it perfectly. Like when you're in there, when you know, like starting out, you should have those, you know, hard sparring sessions, like you said, like because you have to like know your technique and like how to manage your emotions during that and how to like keep up with that, you know. But then like later on, you know, you've done it for years, like, you know, the sparring doesn't need to be as hard, you know. It can be like, so then you're trying to focus now, like, okay, this is what I can do. Then you build a game plan around that, right? So it's like going through all that, like especially just recently, like I just won a boxing tournament, but like seeing how my style is usually, because I love doing MMA, like switching to just my hands is so weird. Like I already critique myself harshly. Like I look like a giant panda out there, just like throwing, you know, punches to the body. But it's fun though. You know, that's I encourage everyone to like do some sort of martial art and like figure it out, because then you know you never know. These guys do these things for a living. You know, these women and like men and whatever. You know, it's hard. It's a hard thing to like try to get technique down and like, you know, like trying not to be like too timid. You have to like actually go out there and like, you know, perform. You know, it's a lot.
For sure, for sure. And you just dropped that casually. Like I wasn't gonna ask you a couple follow questions. So for the tournament, was it like a 1 day tournament, or was it over the course of a certain time period?
Yeah, so my friend's a masochist. So what we did was the first week we did a weight cut. So we wanted to simulate like a short notice weight cut. So uh from Sunday to Friday, Friday was the weigh-in. But then I lost 16 pounds. So I went from 253 to 240 something, or no, 230 something. And then that Saturday we boxed. And then it was like, it was really weird. It was like two eliminations. So if you lose two, then you get eliminated. But it was like a bunch of our friends and stuff like that. It wasn't too crazy. It was for his like birthday. So then we did that. And then the following week, it was the championship round. So we have my friend boxing his employee, and then I boxed whoever was after. So it was fun. Like, but there was no weight classes, obviously, because like I outweighed everybody. But then, you know, like again, like I didn't want to go hard. Like I'm like you, man. Like I just want to flow. I just want to learn and stuff like that. But then a lot of it got, you know, it got to the point where we wanted to win. Everyone became super competitive near the end. Especially, oh, it was after the Pereira Izzy fight. That's
Okay.
what it was. And that just set the pace throughout the night. So we just wanted to like really like, you know, win and hammer each other on. So it was
That's so
crazy.
cool. I never even thought about that, right? Because I see these fights at fucking nighttime. So what time do the fights start for you over there in Hawaii?
Oh yeah, like so it starts like either early afternoon. I'm prelim game, bro. Like
Oh, yes,
I'll watch
sir.
that shit from the morning to like the like kind of like near the afternoon nighttime. So not
Yeah,
too bad.
that's hilarious. Yeah, you watch the whole event and then you still have the whole night ahead of you. I wish, almost like the perfect time, right? The perfect time zone. Because
Hmm.
I hear a lot about the people from Britain. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine staying up literally until 5 in the morning to watch these fights live.
Exactly.
Just sounds so crazy. But that's so dope, man. I getting those smokers and having that experience is definitely very valuable.
Hmm.
And good luck with all that stuff coming up on the horizon. Continue to work on that. I will continue as well. We'll give each other updates.
Yeah,
But
heck yeah, bro.
hell yeah. So it's time to get into the MMA side of things, right? There was a
Woo-hoo.
lot going on
Oh my
across
god.
a lot of different promotions, right? But
So much.
I love how I started it there, but there is one fight in Muay Thai, right? Kickboxing that I wanted to talk about. I know that
Oh
I
no.
was I was posting a little bit about
Oh
it on
no.
Twitter. Nongo versus Haggerty and just an insane
Ah!
insane upset by Haggerty.
It was
Did you
so
get to catch
good.
that one, and how did you feel about it, man?
Bro, that was pain for me because I love both guys. But then you know, like I'm always gonna root for like, you know, the Asian person, right? So it's like, but
Say it
I
like
like
it
Haggerty
is,
a
bro.
lot. Yeah, exactly. I love, and especially like the ties, you know, like I love Muay Thai too. But then like seeing, man, but you can't hate on Haggerty, man. That combo that he when he KO'd him, I was like, dude, that was painful to watch because I like Nongo a lot. but seeing that flow, it was like I was on a roller coaster emotion. So like, wow, that was such a good combo, but he hurt my man, he hurt my boy. But then it's like, but that's also my boy. So my boy's hurting my boy. So like, how do you know? You're just stuck in the middle, right? I hate it, but it was great, dude. Man, that finish was he really like. It's like he improved so much.
Mhm.
So crazy.
And just shocking, right? The last two, first
Mhm.
in the Bangkok Arena, right, in the Muay Thai Stadium, and then this following it up, a weight class up. I just got a lot of respect for that man. I can't believe the things he's been able to accomplish. And shout out to One for
General.
giving these kickboxers that platform to fucking do it in general,
Hmm.
right?
Exactly.
Because even though Muay Thai is huge, obviously in Thailand, right? And there's so many different
Mhm.
champions and so many different stadium shows out there. But on the world stage, right? This is the first, in my opinion, reputable outlet for these fighters.
Right.
So really, really love to see the way Haggerty has been able to represent the Western side of things, right? Because
Right.
usually the Thais are the predominant people that are kicking ass in this, but
Hmm.
I just couldn't believe it. Like when I was watching, I really thought that he was biting off a little bit more than he could chew in this matchup,
Yeah,
and he
man.
just stepped up big time. He looked big too for the weight class, which I was surprised to see, considering he was
It's
coming up.
crazy.
And
Yeah.
then every time it felt like every time he connected, he just froze him. Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
And that finishing sequence with the elbow. Oh man, it was brutal. It was brutal.
Oh, man. Dude, like all the shots looked stiff. The technique was perfect. The speed was still there. I was like, what the hell what are they doing over there? Like, because I want to get like that, It's like, damn, man. That's
Yes,
crazy.
sir. Snappy
Mm.
power is
Crazy.
always a very dangerous side of things. But
Right, right.
uh, with that being said, I think it's only appropriate we go on to the MMA side of things and first try to recap a little bit of the things that happened at the Saturday's event. Right, so we had Sergei Pavlovich versus Curtis Blades in the main event. Um, I just I just gotta ask you, man. How do you feel about Curtis Blades' decision making in this fight?
This fight IQ was shit, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think the wrestling came a little too late because then I just watched it again because I was just so astounded when I watched it like during the fight, and I was like I guess because he thought he found early success with him with like the straight, right? But then as soon as he felt the power, he was like, "Oh fuck!" Like "Oh shit, how am I gonna take this guy down?" And so when he shot in and he got stuffed like easily, like it wasn't even close too. Like he shot out pretty far, and I was surprised he even did that. Like because his strikes were pretty good. It's just and he could have used his strikes to set up takedown easily, but then man, dude, like I guess, but like that's another thing about the emotion thing, because like when I'm thinking about it, like what's stopping him from wrestling right now, then it's like I think it was just getting hit by Sergey and like feeling that power, especially when he got dropped too. He's like, shit, like what am I gonna do? Like because I feel like fighters go through that mindset too, where it's like. Especially like his last loss. I think another thing too was stopping him from taking a shot was the rear uppercut, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and he was
It's a
catching him a
sneaky
lot.
shot too, right? It like
Yeah,
sneaks right between the guard almost,
exactly. He has smooth hands for a heavyweight, and they're fast,
and
and
long too.
powerful.
Has the
Yeah,
same reach as John Jones.
it's crazy. It's crazy. So I was just like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like it was weird. It was weird to
It's weird,
watch,
right?
and I was like, yeah, I just couldn't. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I thought he sort of played it like he was in a kickboxing fight, like it was an MMA fight, and
Hmm.
I think he got drawn into that because of the success he was having. Like, even though Pavlovich looked great and put together that same finishing sequence, I think it's a lot of the same what he has been doing during this 6 fight streak now, right? Like, he does
Hmm.
eat shots, he's there to be hit, he gets hit, but he just walks right through it and finds his combinations and continues to extend the combination. And I
Right.
think Curtis Blaze just got stuck in there with his success and felt good, right? Felt he was landing and keeping him at the end of his shots. But
Hmm.
it doesn't matter, right? If the person has the chin to withstand and they want to play those games with you as well. It's just such a weird dynamic to me because even feinting the takedown early on changes those exchanges. I think being more
Yes.
reserved, again, in the same thing with the Ryan Garcia fight, in my opinion. Like you don't have to
Hmm.
try to take him out right now. Like just because
Right.
you're landing, continue to land. Like put yourself in a better position
Mm,
to continue to avalanche on him versus
right.
just throwing yourself off the cliff at him, right?
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
I love Curtis Blades' game. I think he's the most dangerous heavyweight when he has it all together and dialed in. But
Mhm.
I don't I don't know what it is, man. I just feel like it's very hard for him to show up on the night and put it all together. Obviously,
Mhm.
we've seen amazing performances from him on the feet now. Prior, it was just with the wrestling and mixing in ground and pound and stuff. So I think
Mhm.
he's going to be around for a long time, right? I think he has a lot of developing to do in the division, and I feel like he's going to end up in a title fight at some point, right? I think he's just that good. Um,
Mhm.
I just feel like if he could get everything squared up here, right, and have the right approach and be able to follow it
Mhm.
through the emotions of that firefight, man,
Right.
it's almost like a mythical fighter, right? Like sea level Kane. Like if you get right mindset, Curtis Blades, I think he could be
I
the
was thinking
champ for
that too.
sure.
Exactly. No, he's so good. He's so good. His wrestling is good too. Like, and he moves pretty well for heavyweight, right? So
Mhm.
it's like, I think, yeah, man, it's definitely the mental. Like, he doesn't lack the skill at all. He's super talented. His strikes look smooth. His technique was really good. It's just, yeah, you gotta just like all that stuff pays dividends later on. Like you just gotta invest, invest, and then later on, when it's time to cash in, then cash in.
Mhm.
Like I think a perfect example for that was I hate this fight because I hate thinking about it, but Frank Mir versus Noguera.
Mhm.
So I think it was the first one where he dropped him like 3 times, yeah.
Mhm.
So because I remember him talking about it. I don't know, I probably got Mandela, but he talks about he's like, I waited until I saw the back of his head hit the mat because that's when I knew, okay, like he's done, like I'm gonna KO him now.
Mhm.
And then when he did, I was like, damn, he's smart. I was like, but then I remember just being like upset because I love Noguera, but
Mhm.
yeah, just stuff like that. Like you don't have to finish it right away. Like just keep the punishment going for now, because it's either you're gonna take them out or they're gonna want to find a way out.
Mhm.
So
For sure.
yeah,
For
so
sure, that's a great point. And
mhm.
I think Sergey's good, right? But I don't think he's like as far as championship prospects, like I don't think he is on that trajectory. Me personally, can he win the title?
Mhm.
Can he fuck around and deck somebody up? Of course, right?
Mhm.
Six knockouts in a row in the UFC in any division. That's
Mhm.
a fucking record that he holds now, right? So
Right.
so dope that he's been able to be on this streak. I just feel
Mhm.
like when you're fighting someone that kicks, right? Someone like John Jones. We didn't see
Right.
one kick in this fight, one leg kick. He is
Mhm.
there to be kicked, bro. And with his style, um, just can't imagine him having success against someone like John Jones or someone even like Stipe, that can mix in a little bit more range threats and is willing to invest in that way. I think that's the funniest thing about the heavyweight division, right? Because we always get these prospects where we're like, man, this dude is just dusting fools and just cooking people, and we want to get him to that championship level, but it's always the smarter, more reserved defensive fighters, in my opinion, at heavyweight. Yeah, you
Mhm.
of course you got to thump too, but I feel like if you could sort of stay reserved, stay within your game, as well as be able to deliver those hard shots back. That's the recipe for having a championship level heavyweight. I'm not sure that Sergei Pavlovich is there just yet, but you can't deny the
Mhm.
danger, right?
Right.
He can knock out anyone. You just
Mhm.
gotta make sure you don't put yourself in a position for him to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. Like, I think for me, I think I read somewhere that Sergey has never thrown a kick in the UFC yet.
Hmm.
I think he's only been using his hands. And yeah, man, it's just, I feel like any type of, I mean, I talk with my friends all the time, but we talk about how, like, the heavyweight division, the technique is like, isn't as great as like someone at flyweight, right? Because everything, you have to be crisp, you have to do all this, like, and then I think of, but then at the same time, like you don't want to move like a flyweight, like Aspinall, like for example, like his technique was really good, he looked really good early on, but I think the body just collapsed on him. But then you see guys like Sergey where they're just kind of like, pressure. That boy looks sleepy, by the way. Like he looked like he sleep, like he just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll fight. And then he gets hit. He's like, okay, motherfucker, like you're gonna get this shit now, you know.
Hmm.
So, but then you see the level now, right? You see John Jones at the top after like one fight at heavyweight. He made it look easy, and then you see all the weapons that he has. You know, the biological, like he could like strike okay. You know, his kicking game's really good, and then his wrestling and ground, like, and he makes his fight IQ so great. You know, it's
Hmm.
so underrated too, in my opinion. But then you see guys like Sergey, that's like, I have boxing and I can hit. You know, but then I feel like, yeah, I feel he need the division's a little bit thin right now, but then
Always. Probably the historically thin division, literally.
yeah, man, it's just like, yeah, you might as I don't know. Like I'd rather see I'd watch that, but then I feel like, with John's size and just like how he's able to like his top control too, like if he takes him down, then he's gonna be dragging him into deep waters early on. If that's
Hmm.
the case. So I think develop the game a little bit more and see like where he goes from there. And like, but I think it's also the fact that he's been finishing fights fast, so we can't really see what else he has. So but it is what it is.
For sure. I just feel like the reactions are never there to make me think that he would have some sort of offensive wrestling game or something like that. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's always talking about that. Like, oh, he's Russian. He has to have some sort of ground game. And at this point, we just haven't seen it. Obviously, Alistair was able to make him look foolish when it came to clinch takedowns, took him down really easily, and then he
Right.
looked lost on the ground on his back. But that's not rare,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even top level heavyweight jiu-jitsu competitors, once you get them on their back, it's a little bit of a different story, right? A lot of the time it's the top work where you really see their skill.
Yeah.
So defensively, I just feel like we haven't seen him tested in that way. We've seen him get hit a bunch,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen him get cracked, and he eats it. He
Mm-hmm.
keeps moving forward. That's what
Right.
you need at heavyweight for sure. I just feel like the instincts to put yourself, especially against a more dangerous puncher too. Like I think a lot of the guys he's faced do have. Everyone has power at heavyweight, right? You got to be real about that. But
Mm-hmm.
well, I hate that he left the UFC now, right? Because you can't consider him in these matchups. But I feel like Francis Ngannou would dust him if he would end up fighting him, or even like I don't know. There's some young guys at heavyweight that I think could give him some problems, but um I don't know. I just feel like Sergei Pavlovich is the ultimate heavyweight prospect. Like we see him get these knockouts, we get hyped up. It's almost like Derek Lewis all over again, right? Kind of funny that he ended up knocking Derek Lewis out in this streak because it's just like you are that dude now. Like you are the I'm gonna knock everyone out and hopefully I could cash in on a title shot for doing it. But not
Mm-hmm.
sure he could be a champion of the weight class. But we'll see, man. I love the
Mm-hmm.
way he shook up the game, right? He came
Right.
in
Right.
and just he had that loss early, but after that has just been consistently knocking people out in the first round. So loving what I'm seeing out of him. What did you think about the co-main? Right, the co-main, filthy, another filthy knockout. Bruno Silva versus Brad Tavares. Um, that combo was just so bad. Like
Hurts.
I thought it was a
Hurts.
little bit of an early stoppage, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the way he was able to get up. But you can't deny, like, when you catch someone at the end of a long punch like that, it just looks bad. Like that's
Yeah.
I think that's why the ref stopped it, because it just looks a lot more impactful sometimes than it even is, just because you get that big snap. But it was a big shot, and he was coming
Oh.
on, man. I didn't expect that at all. I thought Bruno Silva was cooked food in this matchup, and he came in
Mm-hmm.
big time.
Yeah, man, you really cashed out there. That shit hurt to watch. I always like get sad when I see my fighter lose because all the Hawaiian fighters at Bellator won. But then, yeah, so I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And then you just fucking, oh man, it looked bad because you can see the light in his eyes fade. And then when he gets up, he's like, what? Like, why'd you stop it? I was like, no. Like, as much as I want to be like agreeing, I want people to be safe.
Hmm.
Especially like we have like a small division of like Hawaiian fighters in those top leagues, so I'd rather him like okay, come back later on. But
Hmm.
yeah, that was rough. That was rough
Yeah,
to
for
watch
sure.
for me.
A
That hurt.
rough outcome and a rough stretch too. Like I feel like
Yeah,
Brad
bro.
Tavares has been around for a long time, but he has also took a lot of damage and been a stepping stone for a lot of different people in this division.
Sucks.
Yeah, for sure. Interested to see where he goes next. I feel like that's a big part about why I was kind of upset about it too, because I'm like, no, he needs this. He needs this. And it wasn't like he was just getting cooked the whole time, right? There was
Yeah.
a lot of exchanges, moments where I felt he buzzed him a little bit. But Bruno Silva just a dog, man. Like I love watching him fight because he just doesn't give a fuck. Like no matter what,
Yeah.
no matter what kind of punishment you're giving him, he's gonna walk through it and really try to find a way to win and not put himself in a position like you said where sometimes people are taking shots and then they find a way out. Bruno Silva's never a guy that's gonna try to find a way out there.
Yeah, man. That was crazy to watch. But, I mean, that's just how the division goes. Sometimes you have to have these like big game fights or, and then you see where you go from there. So,
For sure.
no shout out to him. Good luck to him.
For sure. And then the only thing I wanted to ask you about on this card, Bobby Green, Jared Gordon. Fuck, man, that was a literally shot out of a cannon, just a straight headbutt. How do you feel about that in general? Like, how should that be handled as a referee in that position?
Dude, man, like I feel like you're right there. And I mean, like I've never ref a fight like that, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to be there and it has to be for the fighter's safety. As soon as the headbutt landed, he should have just been like, oh shit, just stopped it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was some left way shit. Because you see the elbow right here, but you see the head more extended. So
Yeah.
it's like that's why when you said shot out of the cannon, it made me think of like Hercules, where he's just like, use your head. Like that's how I felt. But then he gets like, dude, that sucked to watch because then
Mm-hmm.
it sucks for both. It's like, he didn't mean to do that, obviously. And then, he just gets dropped by the head, but it should have been stopped right there. Same thing with like Chris Curtis's shit. Like as soon as you
Mm-hmm.
see a headbutt, it should, like, oh whoa, chill out. Like, because that's
Mm-hmm.
a lot, man. Because no one expects it.
For
They
sure.
expect okay, punch, knees, kicks, like all that shit, right? And then you have someone like headbutt you, like you're like, what the fuck was that?
Mm-hmm.
And then like you're discombobulated. And not only that, he like lands a lot of shots and KOs them after. That was rough. As a ref, you gotta be like, you know, I mean, I can't speak for them. I've never, but then you gotta just be like, oh, I have to stop it. Like I have to stop the
For
action, like
sure.
right now.
For
Because
sure.
again, that's the fighter's safety, and you're risking the fight. It's
Mm-hmm.
like oh shit, and then changing it after, like that's oh fuck, that sucks. That sucks to
I
hear.
agree. I agree 100%. I think if they did see it, that's what they would have done, right? I just feel like in
Yeah.
both those cases, you can't blame them. Honestly, I thought when I was watching that fight and the other fight that you mentioned, I thought it was clean shots that landed
Right,
until you're
right.
given that
You see,
replay.
mm-hmm.
It's almost like how would you even know? So it's just such a weird spot to be in. I would say since we have the benefit of replay, right, and it's such a big part of the sport that you're rewriting or overturning calls, you might as well have
Mm-hmm.
some sort of built-in way for the referee to have access to that. Like I think a random idea I came up with is like there'll be like a button, right? And you could like advertise it as this thing, like where literally someone from the commission or someone that is there, Mark Ratner even maybe, they run to that
Yeah,
fucking button and they hit it. And as soon as they hit it, there's like yellow lights going around the cage for the
yeah.
ref to know, like, you need to stop it.
Hell yeah,
Even if they
stop.
don't
Yeah,
know what the reason is, right? But just so that you can have
right.
those moments where, for example, even after Curtis Blades, Curtis Blades, Chris Curtis, too many Curtises, god damn it. After he got dropped though, like if that replay system's in play, right, he's getting pounded on. He ended up not
Yeah.
getting finished, but honestly I feel like you
Yeah.
could have argued it could have been stopped there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say we have this system in play, the lights go off, they break it up, the referee, if they didn't call it, right, if they had to call it from
Right.
outside, the ref doesn't know.
Right.
So they explain it to the ref, this is what happened, and then you're able to deal with it from there. Obviously
Right.
I can understand why people who end up winning, right, like Bobby Green, wouldn't want something like that because then
Mm-hmm.
you're put in a position where they might take a point from you in a way they might not have, right? But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like you said, it's about safety and it's about getting it right. You don't want to get the wrong call and then have to overturn it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sucks, not like the fact that his purse gets affected by that. Like That
Yeah, yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing needs to change. Like I'm
Yeah.
tired of having to consider that that literally because hit an accidental headbutt finished him
Hmm.
afterwards, right? Like Jared Gordon wasn't knocked out by the headbutt. Like let's make
Yeah,
that
yeah.
clear. He was
Yeah.
certainly rocked,
Yeah.
but it was the follow-up shots that put him to sleep. So
Right.
just a shitty position to be in, but hopefully if they do implement something like that with like a replay
Hmm.
system, I really feel like that could change things for the better, man.
Yeah, just like having angles too. It's like because like I agree with you when I saw Chris Curtis get knocked down. I was like, what the hell? Like knocked him down. Like there's like I you know, but then you see the other angle and then you see like how it is. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, like I mean, it sucks, it sucks that stuff like that happens. And sometimes it's they just play it out and sometimes it gets overturned. I was watching the Bobby Green interview with Ariel yesterday, and then he talks about it too. It's like, you just gotta, that just sucks, whatever. But then you're out, bro. Like I knocked you out. Like that's it. Like it sucks because then, but you hear the other side of it where it's like Ariel brings up fighter pay too. So he talks about, oh wow, what's that? But anyway, talks about fighter pay and he says like, well, what do you think about the win bonus and all this stuff? He's like, well, because he was kind of on the fence about that too, where it's like, because sometimes that motivates a fighter to win, is that. But at the same time, again, like fighters are complex people, man. Like you never know like how they feel about that. But it does suck. I agree. Like there needs to be something like a system in play. Because then you have someone on the inside and the outside. Because it's always good to have an outside perspective in anything.
Mhm.
So just seeing that, like, oh crap, like, hey, like, wait, like, stop it real quick, and then you got to watch this replay and see what happens, because, like, yeah, like that's what we want. These fighters, they go out every day and they train. Like, the big night they scrap, and then having all that crap happen, like, dude, like,
Mhm.
it sucks, man. Like, this is their livelihood.
For
Like, I get
sure.
it. Just being like able to make like certain amount of money, like once per fight, and then you get like half your paycheck cut. That sucks.
Yeah, literally. And I'm sure neither of them wanted it to happen that way, right? Like
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
sure um it's almost like you have to run it back, right? When something like that happens. And with the
Hmm.
replay system like that, where you could have someone else outside of the cage stop the action for that moment and sort of figure things out, I think it really adds validity to the rules. Cause I think now,
Hmm.
like, the rules are like fucking suggestions, bro. Like, let's be real. Shout out to
Hmm.
Chad Dundas and one of my favorite podcasts where they literally call it Dundasso, like the art of cheating. Like they like it's as if it's its own martial art. Where
Right,
literally if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And you see most of the time, like you
so
kind of
true.
get, bro, you literally get like one of each foul. Like you could grab the fence, but you get warned for that. But you could kick them in the balls, or you get warned for that. But you could do each of them one time, and it don't matter because you got a warning. Like I feel like if there is a replay system where these things are happening, and it's that consequential, right? A shot that hits that hard, a devastating
Mm-hmm.
low blow or something that they don't notice it's a low blow or something like that. Having that replay system to go back and figure out whether or not it actually was and then adjudicate it properly. Like I'm sure there's been a couple of knockouts where um the person was saying like, nah, like I got hit in the balls and they didn't. And they actually just got hit to the
Hmm.
body, and that's what it felt like. So
Right,
I don't know. It just to me it makes more sense. Obviously, it leaves more room for interpretation, right? For things
right.
to be decided differently.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, the rules are there for a reason. So why wouldn't you
Hmm.
enforce them?
Yeah, you have to be consistent, because then, like, as a fan, when you watch it, it's like I hate seeing all these fouls, and then and then when the same foul happens in a different fight, then what? Like, oh, it's different now. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, you have to like stick to the same criteria. Like, if you're gonna have all these rules implemented or have all these rules written, like you have to implement them. Because if not, then what are we doing? Then again, like you said, like we're just fucking around and cheating. So, but I don't know, man. It's just hard. Like a ref's job is fucking terrible. But
Yeah,
at the
no
same
one's
time, it's like,
signing up to do that job.
yeah, it's just. But then at the same time, it's like, yeah, man, like you gotta have consistency, and this is what
Mhm.
sometimes the sport can lack. Is that
And
So
it's so hard. Like it's so hard to be consistent in the chaos of this fucking sport. There's so many
right,
things that can end a fight, so many different things that you have to look out for. So I don't blame them only, right? It's just
right,
why have the replay if you can't use it to your advantage as a ref, and you're gonna end up getting shit on either way. Like no matter how it goes,
right,
everyone's gonna blame you for not seeing it or not
right,
calling it. So it's like,
Mm,
give them some help, man. Like, yeah, I have the technology. It gets thrown up on the broadcast, right? They show the audience, hey, he missed this. Like in the Chris Curtis Gastelum fight, they showed the
right.
headbutt like during the round in a picture in picture. So it's like, if we at home are seeing all these things unfold, it doesn't make sense that the fighters involved aren't
Yeah, give them
like
more tools.
exactly give them more tools to figure this out. But the only other thing in the MMA world that I think is important that we cover from this last week, Patchy Mix and the bantamweight tournament got a huge first round
Ooh,
knee KO against Raytheon
right.
Stotts. Dude, I thought this was Stotts' fight to win, man. I was
Mhm.
shocked when he landed that
Yeah,
shot.
yeah, I agreed. Like yeah, because honestly, like Stas was super good his last couple of fights, and then like I thought Apache had it on the ground. Like if they went to the ground, I think it would have been very like competitive. But then like he's a finisher. But then the knee up the middle was just like fucking picture perfect, dude. Like I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh shit.
Because
I
bro,
was
I
like,
saw
yeah.
it like right before it hit. I was like,
I
no,
was like,
like
oh.
literally,
I was like, oh no.
no.
Oh,
What a shot. And
it's
not
crazy.
telegraphed, no feint, nothing, just a raw knee up the middle and just
Mhm.
smoked him with it. Crazy. His run has been fucking awesome to see through this tournament. Probably one of the bigger underdogs, right? When this bracket dropped and
Right.
secured the million and definitely going to get the next shot at whoever wins that Sergio Pettis versus Pitbull fight, which I'm hyped for too.
That's
So
crazy. That's a
with
crazy
all things
fight.
being said, how do you think this who ends up being the bantamweight champion when all these fights are said and done?
And oh man. Honestly, like thinking about it, like Pitbull versus Sergio is such a crazy fight just because Pitbull will be down. Um, it just has to, I think it just matters with who can implement their game plan the most, right? I think let's see if Pitbull's power can carry down to 135 and then see if Sergio can eke out, you know, just that, underdog status and see if he can just like get a crazy finish.
Mhm.
But honestly, like the way Patchy's been looking, like and what he has on the ground too, like I can kind of see him. I can kind of see him choking out Sergio. I can kind of see him like doing pretty well against Pitbull. But I have to see, how Pitbull looks at 135 first before I can like really like make a solidified pick. But if I had to pick, I think I think just recency bias is gonna take over. So I gotta pick Patchy.
I agree, man. I agree with you. I feel like 135 is gonna be tough for Patricio. I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested to see how he looks. But I think no matter what, I really am picking Patchy to win because he's huge for 135. Looks nothing like a 35er. Like looks like a big
Mm-hmm.
45er, if you ask me.
Right. Yeah.
So insane that he's able to make that weight consistently, and then just the dual threat. Like obviously, what wasn't a big threat in the striking before this now, but something that everyone's gonna
Mm-hmm.
have to be thinking about. So, man, I don't know. I love it though. I love that there's a conversation about top fighters in other organizations besides just the UFC, right? I feel like it
Yeah, man.
legitimizes the sport in a big way, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing gets me more hyped than fantasy matchmaking, right? Like looking across the different sports and the different champions and seeing who you think will win. I don't think he would be a UFC champion if he was in the UFC right now, but just speaks to how deep bantamweight is across the board. Like there's so many great
Mm-hmm.
fighters, and I think he's definitely top five no matter what
Right.
division. A big fan of what he's been able to accomplish, man. He's come a real long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely it. I always look forward to that. Just seeing how other fighters do in different organizations and divisions, and this is definitely what we need. Because
Mhm.
you have like the UFC at the top, and then like Bellator close second, and then you have, but then like the gap's like super big. But then I feel like as more of these cards come out, you see like oh that's a pretty cool card. Like I want to watch that. So
Mhm.
then it starts the gap gets a little bit smaller. It's not too much, still kind of big, but it gets smaller by the day. But that's what's the saying? Rising tides lift all boats, right?
Mhm.
So you need that. You need that, and then not only does it up the competition in the business aspect of it, but it also ups the competition and just like or people being more competitive in general. And then
For
that
sure.
the skill gap gets even bigger and bigger and bigger. and then you're going to see even more entertaining fights where everyone's not just doing one thing or they're really good at something, blah blah. You know,
That's why I love the smaller weight classes. Like, let's be
right?
real. Like anything under 185, like that's a different sport, man. When you're watching these middleweight,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm not trying to shit on middleweights and light heavyweights and heavyweights. I enjoy all MMA, so let me just make
Right,
that very clear. But
right.
there's a lot of fighters that you see their game in heavyweight, and there is no way that you would see a bantamweight fighting that way. Like it's just a
No,
different
no,
sport. Like you would be an amateur. Like as far as MMA, your MMA
exactly.
journey, you literally won't even be a pro if you were fighting like some of these heavyweights do. But the fists go bonk, right, and people go flying. So it's just such a different world, right? And I love the way those different divisions look aesthetically. Like I think, in my opinion, 135 and 155 is like where speed meets power in the best way,
Right,
and you still
right.
get those huge knockouts, but the technique is still such a big factor
Mm-hmm.
and plays such a big role in these outcomes. So I'm just such a huge fan of those lower weight classes, though. That is
Mm-hmm.
peak MMA, if you ask me.
No, yeah, definitely. That's what you want to see. Like that's how you look. That's how I want people to view martial arts as. It's like, especially mixed martial arts, is everything mixed together in one, and like it's all seamless. You know, it's not like striking to grapple to wrestle to just like it's all one motion. You know, and that's I definitely appreciate that a lot more. And watching like a heavyweight fight, I feel bad saying this. Sometimes, like watching a heavyweight fight, if there's no bonk, bro, it's just a mud match. You know, it's just people
Yeah.
like laying on each other and shit like that. And it's just like, sometimes I don't get as entertained. Like if no one gets knocked out in the first round, if it's not like I'm cool with the grind fest. Like I love Chael Sonnen when he was fighting and like things like that. I like those gritty matches where they're like both guys are tired but they're both trying to finish. Like
Mhm.
Hendo and like Shogun, like those kind of stuff, right? Like those are fun. Mark Hunt versus Bigfoot. But then and then you get like those lower cards where they're just kind of like, oh shit, I'm tired. Oh, me too. You want to just like hug against the fence, like yeah. It's like I hate seeing that,
Mhm.
you know. And that's why with
Heavyweight
women's,
main events are the bane of my existence, bro.
it's too much. It's too much. Like we don't need that much. Like it's okay if they're co-main, like a
Uh-huh.
5 round fight. God,
You're asking for way too much out of these guys. Yeah, literally, it's almost like fuck a 3 round. Give me a 2 round fight. Give me like make one 10-minute round and one 5-minute round, and let's
exactly.
get this figured out. Cause
They have to finish.
yeah,
It's like just finish.
just change the division rules for heavyweights now on 2 rounds only, bro. And it's a 7-minute round. It's not a 10-minute round. 7-minute, 5-minute. That's it. That's all we need. And
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
actually have enjoyable heavyweight fights. Yeah, and it's not to talk shit, right? I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
no matter what weight class it is, it's hard to fucking do these things.
Of
But at the end of
course,
the day,
of
it's just
course.
like, man, it's just a different sport. Like when you watch, for example, two cards ago now, I think there was the Brandon Royval versus Mateus Nicolau fight, and then the next fight's a heavyweight
Mm-hmm.
fight. And it's like you're watching
Oh
two different
man,
fucking things here. Like this is
exactly.
not the same sport. But
Exactly. You have to have a card set up. You have to have it
mhm.
set up perfectly. Because if you don't, then like you're underwhelmed after. you know.
Exactly. You're like that
Oh
fucking
god.
sucked. Meanwhile, it was actually a pretty good heavyweight fights when all things are considered, but coming
Right,
after
right, right.
that, you can't live up to that. But before I get you out of here, man, there's a smaller card this weekend, but then a huge card the next weekend. So I figured I'd go back and forth with you. I got 8 fights written on the docket just for us to sort of
Mhm,
preview upcoming fights, give our idea of how these fights are gonna go, and then ultimately give a pick. So I thought that'd be fun. I got 8 fights across the next 2 events. So
mhm,
let's start with this weekend's card. We got Song Yadong versus Ricky Simon in the main event, but I'm gonna start
mhm,
with the third fight of the card. I'll give my breakdown first and my pick, and then I'll let you go, and then we'll alternate. So the first matchup I have is Rodolfo Vieira versus Cody Brundage. Um, Big fan of obviously what Rodolfo Vieira is able to bring in the grappling side of things. I like Cody Brundage's game. I think being a super athlete at middleweight is like the biggest base for being a top 5 fighter. Like if you can push the
Hmm.
pace, in my opinion, at middleweight, you
Hmm.
will get into the top 15. Like just off of that. So his gas tank, man, is almost endless. Like I love watching him fight just because his output is always at 105, right? He's always pushing the fight and trying to advance his position. I think
Hmm.
this is a dangerous fight for Vieira because of that. I feel like we've seen him against Anthony Hernandez sort of wilt as the fight was going on, despite
Yeah.
dominating early. So I think his key and the key in his development for being where he probably should be, right? You can't get to that height of a sport and not be good, right? He should be at the top level of MMA. I think
Right.
the next step for his development is incorporating the ground and pound and putting yourself in a position to do damage on the ground.
Hmm.
Make those submissions easier on yourself, bro. Like when they know
Hmm.
the only thing you want to do is try to get them out of there with your submissions, it makes it a lot easier to stall you and to cook you, right? Even from the bottom.
Right. Right.
You could get cooked from the bottom. So I feel like I want Rodolfo Vieira to succeed in MMA, but no matter how I try to slice it, I just see Cody Brundage really melting him come the third round. So I'm picking Cody Brundage by
Hmm.
third round stoppage. It's probably a TKO from ground and pound. What do
Hmm.
you think about the matchup and what's your pick?
Honestly, yeah, I like Brandon's style a lot. Like I was mentioning earlier, like just the grindy, just like make it dirty kind of fight. Like I like that a lot. Um, and Vieira just has like this history of his conditioning. Like again, like you said, like after a while, he just wilts. He gets tired, and then I think that would probably be his biggest like improvement would just his cardio. Like if he can get his cardio down, he can manage his energy better. And like you said, set up, strike the pass the strike, set up the submission, like that'd be good. Cause you gotta give people like, especially at this top level, right? You gotta give them something to think about. Like it can be something crazy. Like you can throw like a random head kick, like what the hell? Like he never does that, just
Mhm.
something. But if you don't do that, if you have everything that if you do everything people expect you to do, then they're gonna try to like, okay, then that's it. Like I'm fine. And so I think the first round will be really telling. It's just to see like how he feels, like where he's breathing. But I think I see Brundage either getting the stoppage early or getting a decision.
Mhm. That's all great shouts. Um,
Yeah.
I think both of these guys have good upside though. Like I don't think
Hmm.
even if Vieira loses in this one, he should be cut. I think there's a lot of
Hmm.
people that he would just beat off of his advantages in this division. So
Yeah.
why let him go? Let him develop.
Exactly.
And I think this is a good test, right? Like this is a great test for where he's at right now. A winnable
Hmm.
fight, but we're both going with Cody Brundage in this one.
Yeah.
Next up, I just gotta say this because MMA is notorious for having some of the hardest names to pronounce, right? But I'm gonna fucking nail this. I promise you. You ready?
Okay.
Kayo Bohayo versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Look at that shit. Look at.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
So I'll let you take the lead on that one. What are your thoughts on the matchup and who you got?
Um, Man, honestly, I this might be a decision. Like I think Kyle like will definitely his movement's really good. Um I feel like that's what you kind of need against a guy like dude, I can't even what's it Oleg?
Michal.
Oh, Mikhail.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even say it right. Yeah, Mikhail. Like, I think that's definitely the factors, the movement and like being able to use your footwork and like outpace him a bit. Um I mean, and mixing in the takedown too, because it's just like sometimes like Kyle's fights kind of like like, I watch it and then like for some reason I'm on my phone. Nothing wrong with that. Like sometimes I just like the way he fights is like it's good for him, because that way later on he can have those even more exciting fights, down the line. But
Mhm.
I think I can see him taking the decision. And so
For sure.
yeah.
That's a great shot. I actually am such a big fan of Mihal, like an irrational fan. Like I want him to win so bad just because going back to his light heavyweight days, right? This is all the way
Mm-hmm,
down, right? This is at middleweight now. But he used to
mm-hmm,
fight light heavyweight and it was just always so cool to see him in there with guys that are just like at least 4 inches taller than him, way bigger than
Towering
him.
over him.
And he always finds a way to hurt them on the feet. Like it's so weird. Like you're watching and it doesn't make sense, but it works, right? But obviously there's weight classes for a reason, and even if he ends up hurting these guys, he ended up losing for other reasons. So makes sense that he could chase the move down. I think he could be a fucking
Mhm.
welterweight. Like he has a welterweight frame, but I like his game. Like I think he can give Kyle some trouble on the feet if
Mhm.
especially early, like especially in the first round. But I agree. I think Kyle's really good at game management, right? You gotta be able to
Mhm.
manage a fight when it comes to your fight IQ. And I like what I've seen out of him. I think this is a
Mhm.
good spot. But I would stay away from betting this, right? Like I think it's
Yeah.
pretty obvious that if you're betting on anyone, you're probably betting on the underdog. So you might as well just bet by knockout instead of like trying to go for Mihal money line or something like that.
Right.
Um, my official pick in this one will probably be Kaio. I think I think he I don't think he's a top 15 fighter. And that's not shade, right?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think at this point he is. I
Mhm.
think it's almost like a you're so like almost like a Neil Magny thing. Like you're so well rounded that that can be your weapon in some fights. But I think he's gonna end up hitting a ceiling where we see him get outclassed in each of those phases, just because he is
Right.
an all rounder.
Right.
But I don't think this is that fight. I'm going Kyle here.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Let me just write this down. Gotta make sure. And I know for sure I didn't spell their names right. Like I can say it right, but I ain't spelling it right. Like I literally wrote on the doc Mihal Oleg some shit. Because I knew I wasn't spelling
Like,
it correctly.
stop that shit.
But the main events for this Saturday's card, we got Song Yadong coming up against Ricky Simone. I'm a big fan of both of these guys, man.
Mhm.
I can't wait to watch this fight. I don't really know how this one's gonna happen, right? I think Yadong. Oh my God, let me not do that. Song is much faster, right? Much faster, in my
Yeah.
opinion, especially on the feet
Yeah.
than
Yeah. Yeah.
Ricky Simone, and much more fluid too. So I think he could give him a lot of trouble there. I love the way
Mhm.
Ricky Simone works in his takedowns from his boxing.
Yeah.
He's very methodical for bantamweight, right? But his speed does kind of shock you sometimes, just because he does a lot of half speed stuff. Like not especially at this weight class, not a lot of people do that. A lot of the time they're trying to shock you with their speed. He does a lot of putting his arms out there and making you think he's slow, and then he'll crack you with a big overhand right. I'm a
Mhm.
fan of his game. I think his well-roundedness could give Song problems in this matchup. um, I'm really interested to see whether or not Song's takedown defense holds up. I think that's where this fight is won and lost. If he's able to prevent Ricky Simone from getting the takedown, I think it's his fight on the feet when it comes to pressure. So this is a dangerous matchup for both of these guys. Like I feel like
Right.
this is a great test, a great spot. Um,
Right.
I kind of go back and forth on this one, right? Like I could see both ways of it. But I'm gonna go Ricky Simone, man. I've just been really impressed by how large he's gotten. The dude's back is fucking huge. Like
Yeah,
he's
that's
walking
not.
by the TV. You're gonna miss a few commercials, bro. Like his back is huge for 135. And I think he's gonna be able to get on top and really wear out Song Yadong come the later rounds. I think it's gonna be a decision. I think it's gonna be a dangerous fight, even in the fourth and fifth, where as soon as Song gets back up, it's like
Mhm.
here we go again. It's like you got to try to
Exactly.
find yourself back on the ground. So I'm going Ricky Simone. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, honestly, man, like I feel like Corey showed a lot, like when he fought Song, and just like mixing the takedown and like just like putting a lot on him, like to think about. I think that's Ricky's best chance of winning is just give him different looks, like like oh shot feint and then to overhand or things like that. And then I think Song's best chance of winning would definitely just be punishing the legs and going to work in the body and like if he can get him to the fence, like work him against the fence and just like make sure to avoid the takedown because but at the same time I don't see him defending the takedown all that much. You know what I mean? Just
Mhm.
because Ricky's such a strong wrestler and like his top control is pretty damn good too. So it's like he can make this a grind fest and he can just like ground and pound him all night.
Mhm.
So it's funny too because I was like let me like pick a different pick, see if make it a little entertaining for myself. But then at the same time, it's like you made like all those good points. I'm like, damn, that's true though. Like Ricky definitely can like it's definitely gonna be who can get their game going first, right?
Mhm.
So if he can punish the body, if he can slow down Ricky down, if he can slow Ricky down, then I think Song can take it. But at the same time, I feel like just being like methodical in general, just being able to, just like that half speed is a lot, because I like to do that too. It's just like, make you think I'm just like a slow guy, but then like, explode out and then do some crazy shit. Like, so yeah, I got to pick Ricky for that one. I think
For
that's
sure.
a good pick to make.
I like it. I like it. I'm a big fan of Song though. I think I could see
Mm-hmm.
a world where he lights up Ricky, knocks him out in the first. Like I think
Right.
it's that dangerous, especially early on. I don't even think
Mm-hmm.
his takedown defense is bad. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty good. It's just when, like you said, if when you're mixing things in and you're making him think about more than just a takedown, where things
Right.
start to get a little tricky. So I
Mm-hmm.
tricky Ricky. You gotta throw
There
these
you
words
go.
out. The a little wordsmith going on, but
I
I'm
you.
this is the only fight though that I'm actually like hyped for this weekend. Like I might fuck around
Yeah.
and only tune in for this card because the rest of the card kind of looks like an LFA card. Like it's just a bunch
Yeah.
of random prospects trying to make their way. But
Yeah.
the next week, 288 is the big one, right? The one that I'm super excited about. I know I
It's
put this on
crazy.
you
That sounds good.
last minute.
It's all good.
Literally didn't even tell you, but I just know there's so much to be excited about. So I'm sure you know a lot of these fighters. But let's
Mm,
start at the bottom, right? I'll throw you the oop on this one. Crone Gracie coming back for the first time since his fight
that's
with
so
Cub Swanson
crazy.
versus Charles Jourdain to open up the main card. Hell of a fight right there. How do you think that one plays out?
Dude, I think I found out like a couple weeks ago that this fight was on the card, even though I saw the card line up like
Mhm.
I don't know when. But I was like, what the fuck? He's coming back. I was like, what? But I feel like, oh man, dude, I don't know. I like Jordan a lot too. He's a funny guy on Twitter. And
Mhm.
I like his style a lot. Like he comes to like, fucking fight. Like he comes to scrap. Crone, dude, yeah, that Cub fight was just crazy. Crazy to watch. Just seeing him take those body shots and everything and still go forward.
Mhm.
Um, I want to be idealistic, but I need to stop doing that. But I want Chrome to win just because I feel like that long layoff, like you have to improve your striking, right? Like you have to improve all that, like your takedown setups, and just like like I hope it's more than just guard pulls, but as soon as he gets them on the ground, I think he'll definitely like it'll definitely be way more competitive on the ground than on the feet. I think Jordan's he's really good at his range management. He's really good landing the end of his strikes. So,
Mhm.
but I really want to see Chrome win. I really want to see Chrome win.
For sure. That's a great shout. I like the pick too. I saw Charles Jourdain fight live, his last fight against Shane Burgos,
It's a
and
great
he's
fight.
just so wild, dude. Like he really puts himself out there, and is one of those guys where he's willing to take two to give one. Uh, always on the aggressive and always throwing out some crazy shit. So I know this fight is gonna be insane just based off of that. I think Chrome Gracie has a lot of that in him as well. A lot of his striking is like big shot versus combinations, right? Like he's just trying to throw
Mm,
one big shot out there versus throwing in big combinations. I think Charles Jourdain has a lot of paths to victory in this one if he can stay disciplined, but that's not what he does, right? Like
yeah.
he's a wild dude, and I think even if that's his game plan coming in, I think getting hit and getting pulled into those exchanges, right? I think
Mm,
he ends up bringing that out of him no matter what. So
right.
it's a real close one. This is another one I would stay away from betting. But I think
Mm,
Crone versus submission is just such a good pick, just given how wild Charles Jourdain is and how
mm,
slick he is. Like I think he even has a little bit more dangerous jujitsu than Brian Ortega because Ortega's like very opportunistic with his submissions.
yeah.
Crone will cook you. Crone will set up,
Mm,
especially from the back and back attack specifically. he's such an anaconda at just working his way slowly, but
Mhm.
staying real sticky in the grappling exchanges. I love
Mhm.
this fight, man. I think it's dangerous throughout. I love that it's opening the main card, but I'm going Crone Gracie.
Mhm.
So
Nice,
next
nice.
up, this is another banger, right? This is a crazy fight where both of these guys are getting tested big time.
Ooh.
We have
Mhm.
Movsar Evloev coming up against Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell coming off of an insane fight, right? With I was about to say Igor. That is not Ilya Topuria.
Mhm.
Such a big fan of Topuria's game. You can't even hate, right? But
Mhm.
this is a dangerous fight, man. This is a dangerous fight. I'm a big fan of Bryce Mitchell. I think he looked off in that fight, and it did come out that he had some sort of flu, right, and was sick. So I'm interested to see how he looks bouncing back from that. I think
Mhm.
this is a horrible fight to try to come off a loss, though, right? Like
It's
Mosar is a
not fun.
monster.
It's not a fun
I'm
fight.
a big fan of Mosar Ivloev's game. Another guy that doesn't have those flashy talents that jump out at you, right? But everything he does is so powerful and so technical. Big fan of what he's able to accomplish in the ring, even if it takes a while to appreciate it, right? It takes a while for
Mhm.
him to get there. But I just don't see a world where, especially after seeing his shots get stuffed against Ilya, I don't see a world where he's able to employ that kind of game against Mosar. I think this is really going to be about Bryce Mitchell striking. Like if Bryce Mitchell can be confident enough to throw his hands out there and not put himself in a bad position to be taken down, I think he's going to have a lot of success just off the surprise factor. Like I'm pretty sure um, Ivloev is going to feel like he has the advantage in the striking. Um, my heart is all in on Bryce Mitchell, but I'm picking Mofsar. I just think he's levels above the division, and it's
Mhm.
just such a bad stylistic matchup in my opinion. But I think something that is important to look out for is I think he's someone that fades late. I think I've seen in the last couple of his fights where he's getting tagged more as the fight goes on, and he does look vulnerable in those exchanges and really will push the grappling in a way that you almost are showing your opponent that you're hurt, right? Like, because you're like, I'm
Mhm.
not gonna
Mhm.
do that again. Like
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that
yeah.
moment forward, he's just entirely wrestling. So I think the deep waters is where Bryce Mitchell will win this if he does. But I'm going
Yeah.
Movsar here.
Yeah, honestly, man, like I'm kind of in the same boat. Uh, I don't really like him just because he beat Ige, but that's just me being biased. But yeah, man, like this is definitely gonna be a scramble fest, and I think yeah, Bryce's best bet is just seeing where his strikes land and just trying tiring him out as soon as possible and like working his ground game. But I think yeah, dude, I got to pick Mozart too, just because of how he's looked lately and the wins he's gotten and like how he's gotten it. He's gonna do the smart choice, and then if he finds success on the feet, then he'll probably like do that and then go for a takedown and like try to grind him out too.
Mhm.
So we'll just see. We'll just see. I think if it goes to the third round, then that's going to be probably the most telling thing. But I'll go with Mozart for this one too.
I like that for sure. Next up, we have Jessica Andrade, Yan Xiaonan. Take the wheel, Arwin. How do you think this one's gonna play out?
But then, honestly, I love Andrade. Like the she has that X factor. It's just that power in general. Um, I think this is a good fight for her just because I know that Zhanan's gonna want to fight too. She's gonna want to keep keep it standing as well. Um, just seeing it but then I gotta pick Yana on this one just because like she just got that win with Dern, so
Mhm.
and she looked really good in that fight. I think Andrade, I feel like she's coming. You know, I think that Blanchfield loss it was bad, but then I feel like this is definitely going to be a lot closer compared to like that fight just because of the stylistic matchup. So if she can land that banger, then that's a wrap. But if not, then if she gets like near the end, she'll just keep getting hit, and then she'll get tired, and then then the pressure's gonna probably fold her. So, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with Yu's.
I like that. I think a lot of what she does well is also what we just saw Jessica Andrade has trouble with, right? Like even in
Mm-hmm.
the Blanchfield fight, like shots down the middle, straight shots that are
Mm-hmm.
hard are gonna do damage to Jessica Andrade. So this is a tricky fight, man. I think even despite Jessica Andrade coming off of a loss, I think this is a number one contender fight. Like I genuinely
Yeah.
do feel like whoever wins this might end up facing Weili next, especially if it's Andrade because they have that storyline already built in, right? Do it in
Mm-hmm.
Brazil, right? If they do it,
Mm-hmm.
do it in Brazil so that she has a
Right,
chance
right, right.
to do exactly what Yan Xiaonan did to her in that title fight, right? Even up the stakes there a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
um as far as this fight, I am worried. I don't I don't know that this is an easy matchup for Andrade. At the same time though, the more I think about it, I am not confident in Yan Shanhan's ability to stick to a cohesive game plan. Like even though she
Mm-hmm.
has those skills and has shown um, that she can do those things, it's the under duress part about it that really rubs me the wrong way. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially thinking back to her fight against Carla Esparza, I think Jessica Andrade could get some serious control time in this bout, and almost
Yeah.
by the end of it, you're kind of like, man, how did I even think this fight was going to be close? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with Jessica Andrade here. I definitely could see the dangers, especially on the feet. I just think there's so much more to the fight, but I think this is gonna tell us a lot too, right? Like if Jessica Andrade doesn't try to force those advantages and only tries to fight this fight on the feet, I think it says a lot about where she's at in her career, right?
Right.
And whether or not she could continue to move on in the division. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a big stakes fight here. I love the matchup, but give me Andrade.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, right? We're getting some parity here. I think that's the first time we're on the opposite side of things. But
Yeah, yeah, I need
we
it.
love to see it. No, I would much rather us literally all pick the same fight than us just waffle around and pick people just for the sake of being on the opposite side. If anything, I think we
Right.
do a good job, right, of giving both sides of
Uh,
the coin either way.
yeah.
So next up,
Mhm.
I'll let you take the lead on one of the best fucking fights probably like they could have booked. And they booked it on short notice, literally on like 2 weeks notice.
This shit's so
Bilal,
crazy.
insane. You would never see this in boxing, but Bilal Muhammad
Shit.
versus Gilbert Burns, another number one contender fight in my eyes.
Dude, yes.
We
The
haven't had the
sad
time to think about this one, man. How do you feel?
this is the fight, man. Like like both these guys are fucking hungry. They want to fucking scrap. They want to get they want the shot at the title. Um honestly, man, I'm very biased with how I'm gonna my picks are very biased with this one just because I like Bilal a lot, you know. But I'm gonna be for the sake of being realistic too, like I'm gonna I'm picking Bilal, but being realistic, this is a very dangerous fight for him. Just especially with like Burns too, like especially with all the stuff going on, like coming off Ramadan, right? Like that's a lot, man. Like and Burns' game plan, like I think as of late, like he's just he's just a killer, bro. Like he just looks like he knows how to mix it up. He has power in his hands. He has volume too, and everything like that. Bilal's really good at straight down the middle strikes, but you're gonna need more than a 1-2 for this one, you know. So I think it's just gonna be a lot of just grappling transitions, a lot of scrambling. I think that's where Bilal's gonna do his best work, and then he just has to be able to survive the submission and all that. But like you know, again, just me. Like my love for Bilal is always gonna be there, so I'm gonna pick Bilal just for that. But I think this is just gonna be a really hard fight for him, especially with Burns.
This is such a hard fight for me to even think about. Like it's such a hard fight to have an idea of how it's going to work out. I'm such a fan of both of these guys, so I'm really looking
Right.
forward to this. When I initially was thinking about it, right, I'm like, this is short notice. Like, can Bilal put on that same pace, right? Because it's short notice.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm also considering, right, this is also short notice, and he's also coming off of the fight with Masvidal too. Obviously, not a huge fight as far as taking damage, but a fight's a fight. I'm sure he was banged up to some
Mm-hmm.
extent and now immediately
Mm-hmm.
back into camp for a fight in a couple of weeks. Insane credit to both of these guys for signing it.
Yeah, shout out
Um,
to them.
I think trying to look at it just skills versus skills, right? No X factors. I
Mm,
feel like Gilbert Burns is so good in those first 3 rounds, right? Like I feel like
mhm,
he is someone who, when he's can fight at his pace, like he did against Tyron Woodley, he's unstoppable. Like he really is a well-rounded, nasty fighter that takes what you give him and punishes you for it, right? Um, the only thing that gives me pause on him in this matchup specifically is that Bilal Muhammad's gas tank is otherworldly, and I don't even think that's gonna be a question on short notice. I still think that is, I think that's just who he is year round, and
mm.
I'm just really worried about the straight shots. Like I was super impressed with Bilal's improvement in the striking and his ability to be really crisp and not overextend himself. Like he puts on pressure in a safe way. And that's very hard to do.
Mhm.
Especially when you're mixing in those takedowns. This is such a crazy fight. I think both of these guys end up hurt at some point. Um, I'm just really I'm really worried about how the grappling exchanges are going to go. I feel like Bilal
Yeah.
is so used to having those advantages that he's going to be confident in riding out those positions
Right.
versus understanding the kind of danger he's in. Um, I'm gonna go with Gilbert Burns here. I think he's gonna win by some sort of flash submission. But honestly, my heart is with Bilal Muhammad. I love his style, and his
Mhm.
improvements is something that honestly I would not have seen coming. Right, he wasn't
Right.
the blue chip prospect, so to speak. But this
Mhm.
run is legit, and it'll be a shame to see him not get a title shot out of it. He deserves a title shot, in
Mhm.
my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, it's just such a hard matchup for him
Yeah.
considering the spots that he does well. His opponent is also very, very good at. I could also see a world though where he really puts it on Gilbert on the feet and really makes him tired and takes it out of him and finishes him in a similar fashion to Usman. I don't think it has to be necessarily all power, just more so wearing on him and that
Right.
constant
Right. Right.
mental toll.
Mhm.
This is such a hard fight to pick, man. Yeah, even now I'm like, am I sure? But I'll go Gilbert Burns. Not confident though. This is another one. Stay away from the window.
Mhm. Definitely.
Whew, I'm so hyped though. So hyped.
It's a
But
good card,
now
bro.
the main event: Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. So many. This is the matchup of wild cards, right? All of this is fictional ideas of who Henry Cejudo is because we have no idea who he is at this
Mhm.
point in his career.
Mhm.
There's no way you can't pay me to pick Henry Cejudo in this spot. I'll start off by saying that, right? You can't pay me just because of how long he's been away from the sport and
Right.
all those other X factors. Um, I'm a big fan of Aljamain Sterling and his development as well. I think he's another guy who errs on the side of caution and plays to his advantages, but is also a very physical fighter, which is a hard thing to do at the same time. Um, I just I'm shook. I feel like on the feet, this is a fight where Aljamain Sterling has to be able to get his kicking game working in a almost John Jones esque way, where he's not focused on the boxing at all, because that's where Henry Cejudo can have uh, big success, in my opinion. I think leg kicks are going to be huge in this matchup for both guys. We've seen Cejudo get carved up by Marlon Moraes, and I think that's a the game plan to follow if you're
Yeah.
Aljamain Sterling in this one.
Yeah.
But it's scary, right? You're throwing that leg kick and you're in line for that straight right. And he has a
Mhm.
crisp straight right hand behind the jab. I'm a big fan of his combination punching. He's sort of changed his style over the years to more of a karate style on the feet, which I think suits his athletic ability much more than his boxing style early on. So I like Cejudo and his fighting style. If he was consistently fighting, I feel like this is a matchup that is winnable for him. If he wins, I won't be surprised. Like I really won't be surprised. He's that good, and he has shown a championship medal that I think few people have ever shown. Like I couldn't believe that he came back against Marlon Moraes in that fight. Like that, he
Yeah. I
looked
did.
like he was done with those leg kicks. Most people would have been, and somehow just melted him right after. So I won't be shocked either way. I think this is going to be a war. I think this goes to decision. I'm picking Aljamain Sterling. I'm not confident. And I think either way, I think it's going to be a 3-2 decision. I don't think it's going to be a blowout for either guy.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Honestly, just with Aljo's best bet is to just definitely wear and tear on Henry a lot, just because of that layoff, working his legs. I feel like he's a smarter fighter than Moraes in a sense, just because of like if he knows he has the advantage there, he'll do it. I can definitely see a lot of scrambling in this fight as well, especially like I just have to see what the power is like too. Like if Cejudo's still the same, how his conditioning's like in the second, third round. Yeah, definitely the safe. Well, I mean, the safe bet for me would probably be Aljo, just because he's been more active. The way he can stick to his game plan and things like that, and what he can do to Henry a lot. But yeah, definitely, it's that grit, man. It's that wrestler's grit. Just the the ability to go through that. I remember just watching it, like watching his fight with Moraes and him just using the plum, and like he looks stronger than him. Like he looks stronger, and he's just destroying him with knees. And I'm like, I remember yelling. I was like, "Bro, you do Muay Thai? Like, what's going on?" Like,
Yeah.
but then, oh man, yeah,
That's
shit.
just
I,
it
I
was
want.
like all heart. Like I
It was
can't
all
think of
hard.
another performance like that where the skill disparity was clear as day and he's just getting cooked, and then
Exactly.
it's all this that gets him past that. Like that was Herculean on his part.
Exactly. And that's a big thing too. It's just like it's definitely during the later rounds it's gonna be a battle of wills, yeah. So I can see Henry winning that aspect, just like being able to like grind out Aljo. Aljo just has to be smart. He has to be smart. He has to just work on him, get him tired. Like shit, if he can back him cool, just but fuck. I'm gonna, you know, with a hurt heart, I'm gonna pick Aljo, but like I want Henry to win.
Mm-hmm. That's a great shout. The king of cringe, man. I honestly am
Yeah,
a big fan
exactly.
of his. That persona's fucking dumb. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah, I
but
agreed.
like the most
True, true.
low IQ shit ever. Like you don't even have heat. Like it's fake. Like this is wrestling
Yeah,
shit, in my
exactly.
opinion, which is so
Yeah,
dumb. Which it's unfortunate too because he's a really a smart guy. Like you see it come across, especially when he's coaching and everything. Like he's a
yeah,
really
yeah.
smart dude. Like you can make your bones being that guy versus being just acting like you're the fucking dumbest guy in the room. But I agree.
It's weird.
I think Henry Cejudo is a combat sports legend, no matter how you slice it, no matter if he loses this fight or not, which is why I give him the respect, right? Most people can't come off a 3-year layoff, bro, and come right into a
Mhm.
title fight and have a chance at winning. Like most of those fights, they're big underdogs. So it speaks a lot to the respect that we have for who he is, right? Like I
Right.
said, even if he wins, I will not be shocked, but I just have to make it clear how impressive that would be, right? If he's able to be away from the sport, obviously still training and still working with fighters, but not be competing for that long and still be a champion, still technically it's like you've been the champ this whole time, right? Like you didn't lose your belt, you
Mhm.
just retired. So that'll be fucking amazing and insane. So it's hard to root against that storyline for sure. I feel where you're
Right.
coming from with that.
Yeah, man. A lot of good shit happening that week. Yeah, so I'm excited. Super excited.
I'm just heartbroken because they priced me out, man. I used to go to all these Jersey and New York events, and I looked up the ticket prices, and it's just shameful. The
It's
UFC
so
does not
bad.
care at all. They only want hedge fund babies at their events. The fact that the bleachers are $800, like the
That's
bleachers,
wild. That's
eh,
wild.
like unaffordable. That is rent money, fam. That you're asking people to go pay to sit in the one of the shittiest arenas. The arena's nice, but the area, bro. If you, I know you've never been there. Newark is. I've been to that arena twice already. I've stood in that
Yeah.
area for these events. Fucking the sketchiest of sketch. So much crackheads around. It is
Oh
sus.
man.
Newark is sus. So
That's fun.
it's funny that they keep getting these events, but um, I'm looking forward to it, man. There's so many good fights, even on the prelims. Like, there's a lot of good prospects on this card too, that you got to keep an eye out for. So I'm hyped. As always, Arwin, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we could go fucking 4 hours doing this show, just
Yeah,
rattling
bro.
off different things and talking about different matchups. This was hella fun for me. So thanks
Oh
again.
yeah, dude.
Please remind them again where they could find you on Twitter, and I will get out of here.
All right, yeah. Just follow me at 808 MMA Insight, and yeah, man. I love doing this pod with you, bro. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one, and yeah, again, subscribe, guys. Subscribe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Welcome back as well to the Twitter sphere. Make sure you follow him there. You can catch me on Twitter at Negron MMA, as well as on Instagram at Chris Negron _. But make sure you follow the brand OTS Media Co. on all platforms, as well as
Mhm.
OTS Media on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I've been feeling it. We've hit 500 on Twitter.
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
love. I'm loving it. And please reach out. Let me know what you think about the show. Let me know how we can improve it. Let me know what you want to see on it. We'd love to give you what you want in that way. So thank you so much for the support. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
All right. Shoots.